Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and I promised you another look at Mistweaver monks after they received their buffs on PTR, and we got to test out some mythic raid bosses on the monk after the buffs. So we got to test out Soulrender, which honestly was pretty fun. I think the bosses in the new raid Sanctum are actually relatively fun, and we got to test out Soulrender, we got to test out the Nine, and we were really trying to pinpoint, the changes, how it's gonna impact the gameplay. Is the damage good? How's the mana? And this is all about Mistweaver, and we're going to look at how it feels. So let's go and start the video. Basically just a small overview of what the bosses were like. We were attempting to do Soulrender with a group, and this is mythic content, so a lot of the times the fights were not lasting a long time, but it is a fun fight. You have to, this fight has a dance mechanic to it that's probably gonna be infamous very soon, because I'm playing a monk, I have roll, I'm very mobile, it's very easy for me to avoid dying, but if you're a slow class, you're probably gonna really hate this boss. Soulrender, the main things in terms of damage patterns, there's a controlled AoE that happens, so you have to kind of click these souls and you have to run away like chains, and the chains snap, and there's huge AoE. So controlled AoE for Mistweaver monk with the latest buffs felt really good. And why? So for the people who don't know about the latest Mistweaver buffs, you can check out my previous video, I'll go about it a bit more. But in terms of the big changes, it is all about that revival. Revival now benefits from your mastery, it scales with mastery, it now procs Gust of Mist. It'll proc Gust of Mist twice on people who have Essence Found Hot on. And we'll talk about how a Kyrian monk like myself abused this mechanic in order to get some amazingly big revivals. And I shouldn't say revivals, because the revival healing actually has been reduced, but the Gust of Mist healing is just insane. You can see some of the clips here where there's a lot of monks who were testing this. I think we had like a 3 monk group or something, but we were trying to snipe each other with revival, and revival would, a lot of the times, would bring someone from like 20% HP to full in one go, and that is absolutely insane. Let's go and check out some of the gameplay that I try to optimize when playing revival, and that kind of requires us to go back to PTR. Let's go back. So this is my monk, and we were talking about the revival changes because honestly that's probably going to be the biggest thing that's going to impact your gameplay, your preparation, and possibly impact your covenant choice, because covenants like Kyrian, Weapon of Order, and Bone Dust Brew from Necrolords directly impact the performance of revival. Besides revival changes, Mistweavers receive things like increase to their DPS, which is a total of around 8%. And because of the DPS increases, you have to remember that there was a 10% DPS increase for basically every single spell that impacts or contributes towards your ancient teachings of the monastery. So this legendary got buffed by another 10%, making this probably one of your best legendaries that you're gonna use no matter what. And I think that's a problem to some extent. So all of a sudden Blizzard has buffed Mistweaver damage by not a crazy amount. Spinning Crane Kick did get a 20% buff, but it wasn't a crazy amount of DPS increase. But I think Blizzard is really scared about buffing or over buffing Mistweaver monks because it's going to directly buff ancient teachings of the monastery. And this legendary, again, was kind of pumping. The amount of healing that this was doing is insane. So just some of the logs that I left here from details. This is a Soulrender. Like, we had some 6-minute pulls, 4-minute pulls. Again, there's a couple of 4-minute pulls as well. But based on the healing, you can see here that my Gust of Mist, and you might look at Revival and you're like, Revival is not doing a whole lot. Revival's healing was actually nerfed, but the Gust of Mist that it procs is absolutely insane. So the Gust of Mist healing was insane. My Ancient Teacher of Monastery was doing 10 plus 6, 16% of overall healing was done by this legendary. Gust of Mist was doing a tons of healing because of Revival. And this was on a 6-minute fight on Soulrender. If you go to like 4 minutes, you can see again, Gust of Mist absolutely pumping. Ancient Teacher Monastery absolutely pumping. We go to another 4-minute fight. The same kind of story. Again, Ancient 7-7. The amount of healing that this legendary with fistweaving was doing, the amount of healing that Gust of Mist was doing because of revival. Again, I wish there was a better way to show how much of this Gust of Mist healing was directly related to revival, but I cannot show you at this point. So it is field crafting, keep that in mind. Because I'm running Kyrian, I was able to really optimize this Mistweaver revival cheesing type of thing, because you can do this kind of thing. You have to remember that Essence Found, if you use revival on people who have your Essence Found hot, it's gonna proc Gust of Mist twice. So, Essence Found, Weapons of Order, Essence Found, Revival. I have 105 mastery with this, might have even more. I was able to get 2 essence font, and I was able to get revival out. This kind of rotation requires like a 5-6 second setup. So keep that in mind. It's not completely like, it's not mindless. You don't have this like, oh hey, damage happened, I'm gonna push revival. This made me think, and this is why I say that the revival change is actually deeply impactful towards your gameplay, especially if you're running one of these Kyrian, maybe Bondus Brew type of covenant. So, for example, on Soulrender, I know a person is gonna pick up a soul, or chain, they're gonna try and break it, and there's going to be big AoE damage. I need to prepare for it. I need to make sure I have Essence Font out, then I activate Weapons of Order, then I have another Essence Font out, then I have a bunch of people with Essence Font hot on them. The person breaks the chains, I press Revival, everyone's top HP. And my Revival, Gust of Mist proccing, is absolutely insane. Mastery just shoots up through the roof type of thing. And this was really fun. This was about the only thing that changed in terms of gameplay, but it was extremely fun. I would love to hear the opinions of Mistweaver monks that were running Bontos Brew. I would love to hear how the Necrolord was doing. Was it fun to play? Because I was not able to test it out. This is all based on Kyrian. Now let's move on to the second boss, and that is the Nine. Now the Nine was actually insanely healing intensive for specific periods of time, and we never got above like 2 or 3 minute pull on this. And the amount of healing that was required is really fun. There was like kind of like a pull mechanics, you had to spread out, you had to soak, and I was really, okay, the damage patterns were relatively interesting in terms of optimizing my GG, optimizing my revival, optimizing my essence font and things like that. So generally speaking, it was a fun fight to play, but we never really got that far. I think there were some pulls where I was able to maintain like 15 to 19k HPS for a little bit. So it was just fun to see that big of a spike on a Mistweaver monk, and it was really fun playing into this whole, at least for my Kyrian monk. Essence font, Weapons of Order, Essence font, revival. Trying to, you know, really get a good revival was really fun. The DPS portion we haven't talked about, the viability portion we haven't talked about, and this is kind of comes down to the nitty-gritty type of deal. And now let's talk about the damage buffs, let's talk about the mana reduction. Let's talk about the viability or possible viability of Mistweaver monks in 9.1. Keep in mind, this is using Castle Nature data because that's kind of what's available right now. So take this with a big pinch of salt. In terms of the DPS, I feel that Blizzard is in a really tough position. So right now, in terms of DPS, there's not a lot of balance. Now, Holy Paladins are getting like a 15% overall nerf based on Venti or Holy Paladin and things like that. So again, that's not enough to really bring them down. Mistweavers are getting around 8% overall buff, which is gonna feel better, but it's not gonna get close to what Holy Paladins can achieve. In terms of the DPS, I felt like, at least on the PTR testing, I was outputting like 1k plus DPS in raid situations, while maintaining very good HPS. So I thought that was a pretty decent balance. I think Holy Paladin could be upwards of 2k there in those situations, so there is still a lot of balancing issues in terms of what Holy Paladin can provide in terms of DPS and what Mistweaver can provide in terms of DPS, but I think it's the right way to go. You do need to buff Mistweaver damage, but I think Blizzard is in a really tough position here, because if they over buff Mistweaver damage, let's say for example they buff Mistweaver damage by another 20% or something along those lines, and they're gonna be happy where Mistweavers are, let's just spitball here. They're going to be really scared about how this is going to affect Ancient Teachers of Marster. They probably would have to nerf how much that legendary heals, because you don't want to be put in a position where Mistweavers are only viable with one legendary. You want to have multiple choices. I know Blizzard doesn't achieve that all the time, but at this point it's looking like it's either Ancients or just don't play at all. And in my personal opinion, I love fistweaving, so I really like that. But I know there's plenty of people who don't like fistweaving and they want to play something else instead of that legendary. So I feel that Blizzard pushing towards that direction can be dangerous. My personal opinion, I don't mind. I love fistweaving. It's one of the most fun playstyles, and it's one of the reasons why I could main a Mistweaver in 9.1. You can mark my words, because I think the playstyle of fistweaving in raids in Mythic Plus is really fun. It just wasn't giving enough in 9.05. So, the damage portion, I think it's in the right direction, but I think there needs to be more changes. But at the same time, how do you balance, or what's gonna happen with Ancient Teachers of the Monastery at this point if they both Mistweaver damage a bit more? In terms of pure HPS, I honestly feel Mistweaver Monks might actually be right now the top HPS healers again. This is field crafting. This is based on retail data. This is looking at 99th percentile for healers. You can see Resto Druid pure HPS is really strong in Castle Nache if you optimize your Resto Druid in a really good way. But you have to remember, in 9.1, basically, Discipline Priest is getting nerfed, everyone else is untouched. Holy Paladin, again, the healing is not really getting touched a whole lot. So, there is no real changes in terms of pure HPS outside of Discipline Priest and outside of Mistweaver Monk, who's actually getting buffs. Revival buff is pretty big, making Revival a very substantial HPS cooldown. The damage buffs also buff Ancient Teacher of the Monastery by another 10%. So, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for me to say that Mistweaver might be the top HPS performing healer in 9.1 with these changes incoming. We'll see how the rest of Druid legendaries are gonna deal with the Convoke, 1 minute Convoke, which I've been testing. I need to test that a bit more, but Mistweaver HPS is looking strong. Is HPS a defining factor for a healer to be invited in Mythic raiding? Absolutely not. HPS is not a defining factor. There's plenty of cooldowns that these healers in particular have that do not show up on healing meters. So, looking good on healing meters is not always gonna indicate that healer is the best. But for a lot of people who care about looking good on healing meters, I think Mistweaver is actually going to be one of the most solid choices if the changes persist. I think Resto Druid is also very good in pure HPS. So if you care about pure HPS, I think those healers are going to be really good. I still don't feel that Mistweaver is gonna break into the top meta for raids as of yet. And when you compare it to Holy Paladin, you have to keep in mind, guys, it's very hard to make these predictions. Holy Paladin legendary for Ventier was looking really solid. The Holy Paladin legendary for Kyrian was looking really solid. They got nerfed this week without any blue post. They got nerfed, they got changed to have a weaker version of themselves. And all of a sudden they might not be used. So this is how volatile changes are happening on PTO. There's going to be unannounced changes every week that could possibly make a healer from being top tier to being somewhere lower. So keep that in mind, guys. So this is kind of like thinking out loud type of deal. Overall, I think Mistweaver changes are in the right direction. Overall, I think Mistweaver and fistweaving is really fun. Let me know, fistweaving or ranged, which playstyle you prefer. I actually don't mind Ancient Teacher of the Monastery being the one and only legendary, because I honestly think that legendary should be baseline. I think that the revival change is amazing because it changes your gameplay. I don't like the fact that how certain covenants are going to like directly boost that, and you might be forced into playing a specific covenant. But I think these changes, there could be a bit more changes, and it could maybe make real dent in this raid meta. So let's cross our fingers in terms of what Blizzard might bring next week.